Hey everyone, our guest this week is John Patterson, one of the owners of Pittsburgh Pickle. John and his two brothers accidentally fell into the pickle business. They just wanted to make a high-quality food for their bar and restaurant and started making pickles just for themselves. Like many smart business owners, they saw an opening in the market and turned their basement pickle operation into a brand you can find all across the country. John is as honest and authentic as they come, and he walks us through all the ups and downs of building this company. If you are in the Pittsburgh area, be sure to go and visit their bar and restaurant, the BeerHive, in the Strip District. If you want to buy their pickles, check their website for local and online retailers. The link will be in the description. If you are enjoying the Food Industry Insider, please follow and subscribe to the podcast. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We would really appreciate a 5-star review on both Apple Podcast and Spotify. This is a great zero-cost way to support our show. John, it's so nice to have you with us today. I'm real excited to talk to you about your company, the Pittsburgh Pickle Company, and really how we got to today. So I know it starts with 3 brothers. So why don't you tell us about the family?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's 5 of us. I'm the middle of 5. There's a pretty big age gap between me and my sibling that's older than me. I'm 2.5 years older than Will, and I'm 8.5 years older than Joe. But the 3 of us grew up really close. We went off Will and I were a little bit older. We both went to IUP together. Joe, he went to Pitt Johnstown eventually when he went to college. But, after college for me, it took me forever to find a job. I went for video production, and I graduated, May of 2001, and then September of 2001 happened, and it kind of, it just made getting a job tough after 9/11 and in the video industry. So I struggled for a very long time until I finally did get a job in video production, and it was okay, but it spurred on to me to be able to start my own video production business. And I was doing that up to the point where we decided to buy a bar. Will and Joe, they both went to school to be accountants. Will, at one point in time, was like one of the youngest CPAs in Pennsylvania. And he was an accountant for many years, and he got fed up with what he was doing. Joe, he finally went to college, and after he graduated, he worked for Pitt as an accountant. And we kind of were like, look, let's we want to do something together. Let's open a bar. And so he kind of was like, okay, that's cool. And we decided to do that in it was like November of 2010. I just got married in April of 2010, and I was kind of unemployed. I had my own video business, but it was kind of it wasn't great in this town. I was filming local commercials.
When you say video business, what were you doing videos of?
Filming local commercials, anything I could.
A wedding?
Weddings. I was doing just anything that anyone needed recorded, or digital graphics for stuff, and just doing anything I could to get by. I was delivering the newspaper in the middle of the night while I was doing that. I was driving up to Akron, Ohio during the day to edit video for Goodyear Tire. It was very bizarre. And very stressful.
It sounds bizarre.
Yeah. And I just, I've always been like a creative person and want to be creative in any, place you can plug me in. And, video is kind of where I settled for a long time. But to get back to us opening the business, like I said, it was November 2010. We were like, okay, we started hanging out a lot together, since Joe was finally like in a working world, and he was over 21, and we were going to a couple that's when all like the craft beer scene kind of started, hitting Pittsburgh. And we were going to just different craft beer bars and places that were selling just all the imported stuff, and we were kind of fascinated by it. And we all sat back and kind of saw like it as a business model, and thought, okay, this is something we can do. Like, I mean, look at this. It's the places we were going didn't seem that crazy wonderful, and so we thought to ourselves, let's try to open a bar. And within a couple of weeks, I found someone on Craigslist who was selling a bar in the Strip District. And for me, I actually, after I graduated from college, the job I did find was working down in the Strip District. I was working for Shore & Company, which was like a paper supply company party supplies, all kind of stuff like that. And so I was down in that area for a couple of years, and I knew that area had tons of foot traffic, and it was just, if you were in the Strip, you were somewhere. And when I saw that place for sale, I was like, holy cow. And it was cheap at the time. I don't want to say it was like $80,000 or something like that.
Wow.
And this is 2011. And the Strip kind of Pittsburgh cleared out after all those nightclubs disappeared. All the places kind of disappeared. So it was like no man's land. It wasn't a great time to open a business in the Strip. But I just was like, I don't know, the Strip always seems like, a fine place to open up a business. And there's always bodies there and always people. So by February of 2011, we found ourselves, with a lease and doing construction inside of a bar, and we had no clue what the hell we were doing. But, we were all handy enough to just put our heads down and, hurry up and come up with a theme and an idea and a concept. And, it wasn't some grand plan for many years. But we knew that it had to be black and yellow because it was, in the Strip, which is kind of like the heart of Pittsburgh. That's where everyone goes and buys all their Steeler gear. And, so we had to be black and yellow. And, the thinking was, how do we make it be, not just, Pittsburgh bar. We thought, what else is black and yellow? And bees are black and yellow. And we're in the business of beer. And, BeerHive sounds like BeerHive. And, we wanted to be something that, when a woman would walk by, would think, oh, that's cute, and feel comfortable walking in. And we got that a lot. A lot of people, oh, I love the name. Yeah, and it was cute. It's I'm a big fan of alliteration and play on words. That's like one of my favorite things in the world is just is words. But yeah, back to the bar. We opened up in May. We got in there February 2011, and we're open by May of 2011. So it was like 3.5 months of just mayhem of getting that done. And Joe and Will were still accountants, but I had a lot of free time, and so I was down there just, and we were breaking our humps just trying to get it done. And because we had like a window of time where we didn't have to pay rent, and so we had to get everything done before that clock was ticking. And we got open, and it was really cool the first couple of weeks. People were checking it out, and then like the summer hit, and the Strip does like die out in the summer. Everyone kind of goes on vacation, and people are just not as abundant.
Really?
Yeah, not so much. Like once Steelers season comes around, and all through the holidays, and even now, it's decent.
That's funny. I go down there in the summer.
Oh, really? Yeah, maybe it's when it's not so busy.
I go in the summer. I go sometimes in the fallish, when it's starting to get cold, but I hate to be down there when it's freezing. Yeah.
Well, this was also back in 2011. Now it's probably a little busier now. There's a lot more people that, live in that area now. They put so much housing in down there.
Yes.
But the first couple months we were open was a little scary, like we just, we were making money, the business was okay, but it just was like, oh my God, this ain't it. But and I kept saying to everyone, like, just let's wait till Steelers season starts. And once that started, that's when we really started getting busy because that's when everyone's kind of there. And so that by Christmas of that first year, we felt pretty good about the business. And going into 2012, we just kept plugging away and just kept getting busier and busier. That's when my wife and I we were getting ready to have our first child. We had our first child in January of 2013. And so, life started happening quick, kind of unemployed, get married, open a bar, have a baby, it was going really fast. But we found ourselves, putting in tons of hours there, the three of us, just, 70 hours a week probably, just, and we couldn't leave. We couldn't pull ourselves away. We were too nitpicking everything, and not in a bad way, just we wanted everything to be right. And at the same time, we were learning, we had to go get food safe certified. What the hell is that? But we went and did it, and get ramp certified to serve people drinks and all this stuff. And it's a lot, it's like with any endeavor, just a lot of details. And, fortunately.
Did you have a mentor or anybody, any other bar owners who were helping you?
No, I mean, I think we grew up with people who, we always seemed like know a bunch of bar owners. As kids, we just always we'd be playing an arcade machine in a bar somewhere. I don't know, not like we didn't have parents that were like alcoholics or drinking or anything. Just I don't know, we just were always kind of bounce around and just ended up in these places, and it was kind of familiar to us. Our grandfather, he was a when he was in the Army in World War II, he ended up being a cook, and then when he came home, he really took great pride in cooking, and taught his children. My uncle ended up being a chef in the Army. My mom was a caterer for a bunch of years. Our older brother was a cook in a bunch of different restaurants and caterer for a bunch of years. So it's like that whole realm is kind of real familiar to us, even though we went to school for film and accounting. But it was just kind of something that I guess it's in our bones. My dad was a produce manager at Foodland for 25 years of his life. So he was constantly around produce, and here I am, constantly surrounded by cucumbers.
Yes.
It's how this, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but so that we didn't have a fear in that sense, where things weren't so foreign. But I guess just, the three of us aren't, we're not we're not seedy guys, so we're not really like your, what seemed like the typical kind of bar owner, or I don't know, we all have our, bachelors, and, we're kind of well-behaved kids growing up. We stayed out of trouble always. And, we just, I like to think we're decent people.
There you go.
But we learned a lot of seedy things along the way and how other people do things. And, so we've gotten a hell of an education in the business. And, we just, I guess it was interesting too. We kind of brought craft beer to the Strip. We felt, that whole scene was hitting Pittsburgh, and there wasn't really a great representation in that Strip area. So quickly we became known for the place to come get very unique craft beer. And it's a really small place. At the time, we only had 12 taps. But what we were doing, just because we didn't maybe know any better, we were buying some of the most oddest, weirdest, most expensive beers we could find. And we were, the people that were seeking that out were coming. So early on, we learned real quick. We were able to sell a beer for $18, and that keg disappeared in 2 days.
It must be good. It's expensive.
Right. Yeah, right. And it was interesting because it was 18 or 19% alcohol. It was just super high, alcohol beer, and we limited everyone to 2 beers. But it was at the time again where everything was just kind of really hitting for the craft beer scene, and we just happened to be a kind of a cooler place downtown that, if you want to go downtown, we were kind of a cool little niche spot to stop and have an interesting beer, and part of the operation, we didn't really want to have to open up a restaurant, but, we did. And that was, if you're serving alcohol, you got to serve food. So we thought, okay, well, there's, another revenue stream. How do we approach this? We thought, let's make everything from scratch. That's how Mom did it. That's how Grandpa did it. And it worked. It was great. And one of those things we wanted to do was, one of the things we wanted to have on our menu was deep fried pickles, just because we saw that being something that every single bar seemed to have, deep fried pickles.
Yes.
And so we bought a 5-gallon bucket of pickles, and we sliced them into spears, and we battered them and fried them, and they're just kind of gross. They're just
oh, really?
Yeah, they're just soggy and just this sucks. And so we didn't want to buy frozen ones, and it was we really want this product on our menu. What do we do? And so we were let's, can we make pickles? And, we thought, okay, there's all these, produce companies behind, Penn Avenue where we are in the Strip district here. So we had the greatest access in the whole city to produce. And right behind our building was a company called Tom Ayub. And it was this ancient, produce company. And I remember going back to his place the one day, introducing myself and telling him I wanted to try to make a bucket of pickles. And, he had a bushel of cucumbers. And I thought, okay, that's easy enough. I can just come here and get cucumbers whenever. And so we made them, and they turned out decent. And we fried them, and they worked out perfect. And we're like, holy cow, we can make pickles now. And, we had a real basic recipe when we started, it wasn't anything crazy. And so then I went back to him. I'm like, okay, I need 2 bushels. And it was like, oh, well, I need notice, that you need more than, that. He just happened to have one the day I came by. And so like early on, it turned into like, oh, okay, this is going to be, kind of trouble to find, cucumbers, especially when you're buying 2 bushels at a time, like they don't want to sell you that. They want to sell you an entire pallet. We weren't at any kind of stage where we could take a pallet of cucumbers. So it was, even early on, it was like, damn, this is tricky. And it's crazy because, here we are literally a decade later. We started in, we probably started making the pickles like in 2013, but we started the pickle company in 2014. So it's been about a decade. It's been over a decade of trying to hunt down cucumbers, and it's still a bear.
Let's take a little side trip here because this podcast is listened to people from all over the United States. And I know from being from Pittsburgh, when I have guests come to visit and I say, hey, we should go down to the Strip District. You'll love it. They look at me like I'm taking them to a Las Vegas strip club.
Yeah.
And they go, you're taking us to the Strip District? I'm like, yeah. And then I have to explain to them that this is where all of the produce and all the provisions came in for all the restaurants into Pittsburgh. So you can explain that a little bit more because you're closer to it. Explain what's down there in the Strip District for people to.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, when I was a kid, like going down there was always an adventure. But it's a main drag, and that's Penn Avenue. It's a one-way street, and as you kind of hit 22nd Street is when like all the shops start popping up. You see a candy store. There's a butcher shop. There's a Steeler store. There's our bar. There's a seafood restaurant, the Bang. Just everything starts. There's business after business, and a lot of those businesses have been there forever. I know you're familiar with them, but
yep, and it's wholesale. A lot of wholesale things.
Yeah. You get good prices on things and in bulk, and you find just super unique stuff. It's the Strip District it's one of the, like there's not many places in the world that are like it. At least I haven't been around the world too much, but it seems very unique and just kind of. If you're from here, it makes sense. But if you're not, it's probably like, where the hell am I? It's just one of those places that it's very, if you want to get a taste of Pittsburgh, that's where you go. It's where.
But this is why you went to get your cucumbers. Or you're right there because this is where all the purveyors are for all the restaurants.
Yeah, because the street behind us is Smallman, and that's where the terminal building was, where the trains would come in, and every other garage door was just a different produce company, and everyone and their mother would come down here and get the world's greatest produce. I'm sure, and fortunately, there still are big produce companies in that area. But it blows my mind that they were able to shuffle around produce like they did on trains, and it was fresh. And, cause I think, how the hell did Heinz get all his cucumbers in Pittsburgh back in the day when I'm struggling to still get them this day and age, So it's just like, man, but yeah.
You got by the trainload.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And, so we're still getting there. We're getting closer and closer, but,
yeah. So then you went from, so now you want to make pickles. So where's your first place to make pickles?
I mean, so we made them in the bar. Like we had to make, we were making the buckets in the bar, and our bar is 2 floors, and there really wasn't enough room in the kitchen to do it. So during the daytime, I would go upstairs and do it upstairs in the upstairs bar, and I would lay everything out and keep it nice and clean and everything, and. But then it was kind of a bear shuffling, giant buckets of pickles back down the steps. And it was just like, very not efficient and not fun. But for some reason, I just knew, like, just keep sticking with this, because we were making the buckets. And then one day, because we were serving the pickles on our menu, and a customer said to us, you guys should consider putting these in a jar. And I thought, like, put them in a jar, whatever. Is that, and then. I was like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, well, like start jar them and sell them, start a company. And I thought, like, okay, well, this is already tough enough. But I saw a company up in New York that was like a small pickle company. I was like, a small pickle company. Because in my mind, I thought it was just Vlasic, and that's kind of it. Because there wasn't any like, I don't know, it didn't seem like a lot of gourmet pickle brands out there at the time. And so I looked at this other company, and they were called Brooklyn Brine, and they're based out of Brooklyn, New York. And this fella started a pickle company, just because he was hungry enough to do it. And he was just pounding out pickles to the point where he was selling them in Japan, and they're shipping them over to Japan, and he was selling deep fried pickles over there. And I saw that, I'm like, holy cow, like it's doable, And so I thought, if this guy's doing it, okay, let's. The hell, like there's, and really the big thing was like, how the hell is there not a pickle company in Pittsburgh? It was like really baffling to me at the time. Like, am I missing something? Is there one and I don't know it? If this is the place where Heinz started and it came and went, it seems really weird. Like there's a void, and that's kind of I feel like that's the thing I learned in college. They said, if there's a void in the market, fill it. Like find your niche and just sit in that spot.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God! After all these years of struggling, I was like, is this maybe the ticket? Like, so I was like, and I guess at the time on my mind, I thought, I got to hurry up and start this before someone else does, because that was like when the food scene in Pittsburgh seemed to really be blowing up too. Because initially my brothers and I were, we had a beer bar. It made more sense to go make beer, and so we had a buddy of ours teach us how to make beer. And we're like, okay, that's cool. But then everyone and their mothers in town was making beer. At the time there was like 6 or 7 craft beer breweries in Pittsburgh.
And it's easy to make really bad beer.
Yeah, right. And
it's really easy to do that.
We were pretty good at selling it. So it was like, they can keep making it. And so we were like, well, nobody's making pickles. So it's like, I guess with our, we're the three of us are very, very capitalistic. We just think in that key. I don't like to say I'm a businessman or a business. Like I look at business as another way of saying busyness. I like to have creative ideas that generate money. But I don't want to get tied up in the minutia of the numbers. Like I don't know how many jars of pickles I made. I know I've probably hand capped about 100,000. I'm probably close to 1 million jars by hand. We finally have a machine that does that. But that's the only number I'll try to keep track of. But where was I before I got off there? We were saying
you were filling the void in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So it was like
pickles.
It was a race to like, we got to get this company. Like I got to get this figured out. And I remember reaching out to someone was like, try Penn State. Maybe they'll point you in the right direction. They have a big agricultural department. And so I talked to someone there, and she was like, yeah, like you need to get you need to be a certified acidified food processor. And I was like, okay, how do you do that? And she was like, there's colleges and universities that offer that online. And so I looked, and there was really like 2 places that did. And the place I found was University of California, Berkeley. They offered a online program. I took that in, I don't know, 8 weeks or something. And suddenly I was a certified acidified food processor. And so I got that certification, and then we made some test jars, and we sent them to the University of Nebraska for them to test them to make sure our process was safe for production. And I got that, and once we did that, I guess I should say before that, we had to come up with a recipe. Our bucket recipe was just, like I said, real straightforward and nothing crazy. And we thought, okay, if we're going to do this, we got to put like something out there that makes sense for this area, and I kept, I would just research pickles and just look at all the recipes and just see what was out there and how do you differentiate yourself from that. And I remember always seeing like a New York City deli style pickle and just going like, okay, so like, well, who created that? What is that? What's that mean? What's that style? And so I thought, okay, well, that's New York City and I'm in Pittsburgh. So whatever pickle we're going to make, it's going to be called Pittsburgh style. And so that is the first flavor we started the company with. And so it was like, okay, if that's the name of it, what does that mean? And so the recipe is developed off of, the character, where it's like, the whole, the character came first and then the characteristics came next, it's, and so it was like, how do you encapsulate Pittsburgh in a jar of pickles? Because early on I thought, I guess, the creative side of me, I thought, cucumber, no one really likes to eat a plain cucumber. I do. I love cucumbers. A lot of people do not. And they grow like wildfire, like grow to the point where if you didn't hurry up and eat them, they would all go rotten. So they literally, I feel God put them here to be pickled. I mean, and where they are, when the time they come up, and the time where you preserve them, and then the time where you eat them in the winter, like they literally are there to get you through the winter. And I think that is why they are green. Green, like a pine tree is evergreen to remind you of the the sun's energy all year round. It's very beautiful process, the pickle, that I've learned after years of being surrounded by them. So it was Pittsburgh style. What does that mean? The label, of course, has to be black and yellow, and it is. And so we thought. I just kept looking at all the recipes, and everything seemed like very like classic and old school and straight down the road. And I thought to myself, well, like the one thing I always think about Pittsburgh is like Pittsburghers is we kind of have this really like, we don't have a rough edge, but we appear to have this rough edge, like from a rough city to steel city and iron city. And at the same time, I feel like we're some of the nicest, most polite people, ever. So I thought, why not make the pickle be salty and sweet, just like a Pittsburgher?
All right.
And so we went from there. And then with the spices, it was like, you definitely need garlic and dill in every pickle,
Right.
So we added the garlic dill, and then you had to have black and yellow, and that was the mustard seed and the pepper.
Okay.
And then, celery seed just seemed at home. It seemed like a gritty little thing to throw in there, just like Pittsburgh. And so we added celery seed. And so that's the recipe for it. Salty and sweet.
There you go.
Garlic and dill, black pepper, mustard seed, dill seed.
I had some today. They were delicious.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, because I wanted to know. I recognize all the other pickles, and we've had them before, but I hadn't had this one.
Okay.
So I sent my husband out to buy some, and I said, well, buy that one since I don't know what it is. Yeah. And we both ate it, and we both went, that is the best pickle.
They're pleasant.
Because there's not too much of anything. Like sometimes you eat a pickle and it's very garlicky, but if you want that, that's great.
Sure.
Or it's very salty. If you want that, that's great. But this was like nothing, like it was just perfect all the way around.
Yeah. It's
not too much, not too little.
And that's the idea, like where you can eat it by itself or you can stick it in a sandwich. And the idea too was we didn't want to put anything creepy in them. There's nothing bad in them. It's like it literally as if you made them at your house, but we're just making a ton of them at a time. And that was
pickles are a very safe thing to make. I mean, like if you had decided to go into yogurt, that would have been terrible.
Yeah, it's
other very unstable foods. Very fermented foods are very safe.
Well, I guess if you if you don't do the process right, you can have a bunch of jars that are exploding in your warehouse.
Yes.
Or you can poison people. And there's many steps, but it's when you go to preserve a pickle, the amount of what they would call kill steps are so abundant that by the time you eat it, you're safe. And I've made buckets of pickles that I know are 2 years old, and I eat them, and they're totally fine. They're in the refrigerator, but it's the world of pickling is something that like I've really it's kind of encompassed my life. Yeah, it is my life now.
Did you realize that at the time you were making something that was very diet friendly, and everybody wants fermented foods? Not
at the time, and now I think that's something that we talk about a lot. Is how do we get into, all our products now are all shelf stable. So we're preserving everything. Where we do also make 5-gallon buckets of pickles, but they have a vinegar brine, so that we're not naturally fermenting anything. That I do have a certification through Harvard actually with their online school to be a natural fermenter as well. But starting that type of business is a whole nother can of pickles. It's just a whole nother beast where you really got to have tons of refrigeration and really cycling through product, and it's something that I'd love to do. Because I would really love to get that type of product, out to the public, where I know the benefits of having fermented foods. It is the largest category of foods missing from the American diet. I think that is.
But still, pickles are very good for you.
Well,
the ones you're making. People, every diet tells you. Every diet tells you if you're hungry, go eat pickles.
Yeah, the salt is something that that's a big salt is a mineral. Minerals are electric. We're electric. You know, it's when you drink a Gatorade, you're getting that salt in you. You're replenishing those electrolytes. Like, there's bad salts and there's good salts. But yeah, eating a pickle is invigorating. Julius Caesar, fed his men pickles because they were invigorating. And especially a fermented pickle, just because when you do eat fermented foods, the action that occurs in your gut, the byproduct is hydrogen. And hydrogen is atom number one. That's what will fuel you. That's what will clean your brain and keep Alzheimer's and things like this away.
Okay, John, we take pickling for granted. So what makes a pickle a pickle?
Well, I mean, there's several different kinds. I mean, like what we make is a shelf-stable pickle, sliced into a chip, into a jar, filled with hot brine, cooked in a giant, shower of hot water for X amount of time. That's a shelf-stable product. There is a vinegar-based brine pickle you make in a 5-gallon bucket and store those, for months at a time. And then there is a naturally fermented one where you would let that sit out and in ambient temperatures under a plate with just salt and water, and you let that fermentation process occur. You let that bacteria grow, and once it gets to a certain stage, that you like the pickle, you skim off all that scum and you put a lid on there and throw it in the fridge, and it's good. Even the mold won't hurt you either. It's nothing to be afraid of. But and eating those pickles, it's a way different taste and style than most people are used to. But I mean, I think that's what generations and eons of humanity survived on, and it was just second nature. So I would really love to figure out a way to get that, get our brand, especially our brand behind it. We have a really strong brand when it comes to pickles now. Like we are synonymous with it. I always told people in the past, like, I want to be like the Heinz ketchup of pickles. So if you're in this town eating pickles, of course it's a Pittsburgh pickle. There
you go.
That's the goal, at least.
Yeah.
All in due time.
Yeah. So after you made them in the bar, where'd you go next?
Great question. I remember saying to my brothers, and we're looking at each other like, so what are we going to do now? Like, go around selling these out of our trunks? And it's like if you're going to do something, either do it or don't. And we were like, let's just go to Giant Eagle. I sat down with a graphic artist for a bunch of months, and we created the label and everything. We didn't even have a sale yet. So we had like everything we needed, like the total package, and we wanted to present that. And so we went to Giant Eagle and said, like, look, would you be interested in taking this brand on? And they said yes, and we said great. And we got back to the bar and said, I guess we got to start a pickle company. And so, so like quickly we had to like kind of just start, try to find a facility. And it was like, because we knew we couldn't do it out of our bar. Our bar is already tiny. The kitchen's even tinier. And so I remember just kind of like, going on Craigslist, looking for spaces that like, we could kind of put some kind of food production facility in that I know the health department would kind of go, okay, yeah, this space is all right enough to start, figuring something out in here. And it just was like not going well. To try to start a space from scratch with $0. Like we had no money to start this company. It was, so when I say this all the time, like we started a pickle company with $0. It's nuts. But here we are a decade later, and we're still treading water, but still plugging away. But we went to Giant Eagle. They said yes. We started looking for a place. I started thinking to myself, man, like we need a place that has like some sort of kitchen facility and an exhaust hood kind of in place already, because we couldn't find the money to do that. We weren't going to, we didn't feel that strong about the idea that we were going to make that kind of financial investment to do that. So we reached out to my church. I was like, they had a kitchen facility in the basement that was underutilized. They had a giant stove and a hood and a dish sink and all the kind of stuff we would need to get started. And so I asked them if they would be cool with that, and they loved the idea, just to have someone down there, using the space. It's the Verona United Methodist Church in Verona. It's like 20 minutes down the Allegheny River from downtown. It's the church that my wife and I were married in, our kids baptized in, and we still attend church. And now there's other companies now using that kitchen space that have they've launched their companies out of that kitchen space ever since.
Oh,
since
that's wonderful.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool that like we kind of started getting that ball rolling. But we were down there from 2014 to 2016, so we were in that kitchen for 2 years, and it was super interesting space because it was kind of like underneath the church and underneath the altar. And we stored all of our cases of jars underneath the catacomb of like the where the organ was, and so it was a very you couldn't have a sweeter spot to start a pickle company. It's a very blessed place, and we really made it work in that space, just pumping away. Like we were using pots and dropping the baskets of jars of pickles in there. We were filling each jar with a pitcher of hot brine. And it was the three of us, me and my two brothers, just our heads down, sweating our butts off, like, 6 jars at a time, kind of deal, and just rotating and just, losing our minds and, we'd make 100 jars in 6 hours or something. It was something crazy, it was, again, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. But we just, I don't know, we always felt handy enough to just and smart enough to just figure it out. You can hop on Google and figure out just about anything. I always
I saw a video on of you guys doing it in the basement of the church.
Yeah, like it was,
and
cool.
It really was 6 jars at a time in a boiling pot of water.
Yeah,
and
right.
Screwing all the lids on by hand.
Yeah, I mean, and just like looking at each other, going like, "What the hell? Is this right? Are we doing the right thing here?" Like, kind of crazy. But again, nobody else was doing it, and there was something driving us. Something was pushing us, and I don't know. I guess the picture that we were able to paint for ourselves in the beginning, like, wow, we could be the guys that own the Pittsburgh Pickle Company. Like, we're like, what the hell does that mean? That seems pretty important, And so we've always kind of approached it like as if it's been here for 100 years already. Like we're just kind of employees for it. Like where it's like the idea is almost like bigger than us. And so and like we're just like the custodians of it or something. I don't know. But we were there just plugging away, and like there was no loading dock, so to get like distribution set up and like have a distributor come and pick up was crazy. I'm wheeling out a dolly of like 6 cases at a time and throwing it on the back of a truck, and just like it was just the amount of labor was insane. And so we were quickly going like, we gotta find something else. But at the same time, we really saw the business was taking off. Like people wanted it and really loved it. And the same year we started the company was the same year they started Picklesburg. So it was like suddenly we had this like outlet for our company and like all this publicity. It was like, I don't know. It was like the timing couldn't have been more perfect. And so it was. Again,
it was meant to be.
It was meant to be. It was just, it was more signs and more like just like keep going, like just put the blinders on and keep marching. And we started hunting for another location because we were just outgrowing that at a rapid pace. And I kept eyeing up a building in Verona that I saw was for sale, and this was like in 2015. And I remember seeing the price of it and all the equipment in it. And it was a pasta factory. It was called Victor Ravioli. It was there from 1980 to about 2014 or so, 2013. And the place was filled with really like old school ancient pasta equipment that you couldn't find anywhere. And it was just packed with equipment. And the price tag was a lot. And we didn't need pasta equipment. And so at that time, like people weren't really buying buildings and doing that kind of thing. And so they weren't getting a lot of buyers. And it's an older building, and it's like not the most ideal space for production. But once we got in there and took a look, like there wasn't a more perfect place in this city to set up our company, where really? It had giant walk-in coolers built into the walls of the building. It had the floor, the right floor in the place. It had the exhaust hoods. It had all the amenities that we could ever ask for to start a pickle company. The drains in the floor, a dish, like it was like, oh my God, like this is like a perfect place to start a pickle company. And it was right down the street from the church where we started. And I lived 3 minutes up the road, from the pickle building. Yeah. So it's like, and we grew up 5 minutes in the other direction. So it's like, I really feel like God, put us here for a purpose. And here we are. And so for a year, I just kept hounding the realtor, just trying to get the price down. And it wasn't selling. I kept on like, got to get this, and I would drive past the place every day, leaving the church, to get home. And eventually they took our bid, and we couldn't believe it.
Right.
And it was like, oh crap! Now we for real have a pickle company, So we got in there, and it was just it was such a big space, and we had a warehouse. But I remember being in there and just going like, we're gonna outgrow this space too quickly. And here we are. This is 2024, right? And we got in there 2016, and we need a much bigger warehouse. But we're dealing with that. And so we found that space, and the family that was selling it was such a wonderful family, and so they were happy to sell it to another family. So it was like very just like serendipitous. And we got in there and quickly realized we had to start making way more pickles than we were to start paying the mortgage on the place and the bills and everything else. And so early on, someone was like, would you be interested in renting out some of the building, for their business? And they were a brewer. And so we thought, well, we could really use the money. And so they kind of took over the front retail space and what was the offices and turned into a tap room and sectioned off a part of our process room for brewing. And, they've been in there since 2017 or 18 or something. And that's Acclamation Brewing. And they're
still there?
Well, they actually found a new spot that they're going to be serving out of. And they may brew out of there and still brew out of our building as well. Not quite sure where that's going to land. But yeah, so it was nice too, like where we were able to buy this building and help another business facilitate their business. But also that building needed a ton of work, and so we have put a ton back into it. And I would say that was 2016, and the BeerHive was still chugging away, and that was kind of, for lack of a better term, our bread and butter. That was how we were, paying ourselves and making a living, while we were dumping, every nickel back into the pickle business that the pickles were generating. And it was just us still, and a couple employees just humping away, and we were still doing it with, the dropping the jars in a basket method. But this time we had 16 pots lined up, whereas we went from 5 to 16. So we little more than tripled our production, but we did that by hand from 2016. We've been doing it by hand from 2014 till like the spring of 2022. So it was like 8 years of doing it like that, and
really,
and we're paying the price. Where like I've got my back in a much better, healthier place, but I was a year ago like really jacked up, just limbs going numb and all sorts of stuff. And but the addition of the equipment in 2022, it allowed us really up our volume. Still highly laborious, So now we're 2 years into this equipment, and now we're looking for another round of equipment that'll maybe take even a bigger chunk of the labor away. So all during
the pandemic, you were still doing it the old way.
Yeah, and it was trying to get employees was impossible, and so it's me and my brothers and like 2 other guys just killing ourselves, and
you were,
everything in the most unergonomic way possible. It was just do it to get it done. Like we had POs to meet, and you had to get it out the door, no matter what it took. Just get it done. And
so when you decided that you're going to automate, how did you walk us through how you got the money, how you got the equipment, how you picked it, how you learned how to do it?
So in a really weird roundabout way, we started getting into the game of co-packing. we had another pickle company approach us to pack their pickles, and we started doing that. And that was
by hand.
Yeah, we were still doing it by hand, but like we would make ours in 2 or 3 days, and then we'd have Thursday and Friday still open. So we, just cram it in, and so we started making their product, and it was great because it started like, the business was like generating, and we were, we started getting phone calls. Can you make this? Can you make that? So we were building ourselves like a niche because we were able to do it in smaller volumes, where you go to large co-packers and you have to take 10,000 bottles at a time or whatever. We were like, we can do 1,000 bottles or 500 bottles, and so we were just trying to pay the bills. But the other pickle company, we were packing their pickles. They got an investor, and they kind of wanted to just like up the game of things, and that investor approached us and, what do you guys want to do? And we weren't interested in selling our brand at all. That's something that's very personal to us, and lots of pride in that. And, but we understood, like, if we wanted to, get down the road here and stop killing ourselves, like, we needed some kind of financial input to get us to that stage. And so what we kind of did was, together with our building and the equipment we currently had in place and our expertise, we kind of made a co-venture where the two companies have a co-packing company together. So in our building, we operate as Crave Co-Packing, but we make Pittsburgh Pickle.
Okay.
And so Crave Co-Packing gets a portion of the what it costs to make a jar of pickles.
Okay.
But what it did is allowed us to ship in equipment. We started doing equipment research, not knowing what the hell we were doing. Finding out real quick that a lot of the stuff that we could get in America was just the same stuff from overseas, just with a different tag on it. So we went through the route of it was the only way to make it affordable, and it was happening during COVID. So the price of a shipping container was like 8 times the amount it was like the year previous. So like the costs of everything were just adding up very quick. But my brother, he did a great job of the translating back and forth, to figure out what we needed. And, we marched around our building, measuring every square inch of it, trying to figure out how to, what equipment we needed, how to cram it into this space and make this all work. And, we made the purchase, I think, in maybe November of 2021, and it arrived to our doorstep in like late April of 2022. And we had to figure out how to unload this giant trailer of equipment, and we had a couple buddies come down and people help us, and we were pulling out like a heating tunnel that's 25 foot long, and trying to cram it into this tiny building. It was
How'd you figure out what you needed? I mean, is there like an equipment company you call and say, I want to make pickles, please send me the parts?
Like we at one point in time, like all the we were slicing all the spears by hand with a knife. We were slicing all the cucumber chips with a RoboCoo slicer, but one cucumber at a time and plunging. So I would stand there for like 5 hours at a time. While I'm slicing, while jars are getting packed, and then someone's filling with hot brine, and someone's dropping it was just like, I mean, like a Laverne and Shirley episode, a I Love Lucy episode. Yeah. Like, it was just like very, very nutty. But like, I don't know, like we could not we could not say no. We couldn't tell ourselves, no, we're not going to show up and do this. It was weird. Like we were being dragged there almost. But we got all the equipment in, and it was like, so in a very fortunate way, our one employee is also an electrician, so he like knew how to wire everything up, and our other guy was a former HVAC guy, so he understands all the like that stuff too, and my brothers and I, again, very handy, and like we understand like how to a steam boiler system now, and whereas I'm someone who likes to doodle and draw and write songs and play guitar, but I know all this other crap now. So it's a lot. But it's all very vital to the operation and knowing how it all works. And I don't know how we figured it out, to be honest. It's just like you keep scratching your head and just keep knocking on doors till someone gives you an answer.
So how did it feel the first time a jar of pickles came from start to finish off the new line?
I'm someone that I don't get excited about anything. I really don't. But I think that's for me. I think that's exciting because I'm like, okay, yeah, well, that's what we set out to do. Like, what's the big deal, So even though it is very exciting, it's very like where people are like, holy cow, how did you guys figure that out? Oh, whatever. It's like I try to pretend it's second nature and like it's of course we know what we're doing, but it's rewarding, but then it's also like, oh, okay, now we got to fill this tunnel up. We got to keep this line going. This line has to go 24 hours a day. That's the feeling. It's like you see it and go, okay, now we just open up a bigger can of, I don't want to say worms, but
pickles.
Pickles. Yeah. It's and we're looking to do that again, and it's but that is kind of what we set out to do, even though it's been like I don't want to say. It's like, like being in the front row of a roller coaster, the front seat of a roller coaster,
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of ups and downs and you're like holding your breath a lot. Like when we produce pickles, it's like we all have PTSD, because it's like something goes wrong or something, a hose pops up or something. There's, like it doesn't happen all the time, but it's happened, in the past to the degree where you're just like, I tell people when I go to work, I feel like I'm going to an emergency room, where it's like, it's intense, and it's pickles. It should be the most innocent thing in the world, but it's intense. And it's 1,000 degrees in there because, we're doing it in an ancient building and it's not like set up with all this technology and all this, stuff. It's like, it's if you gave the Amish electricity, kind of, that's how, that's what it feels like. And, God,
that's funny.
I envy them.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the funding that you did. I know that you just can't like write a check for all this equipment. So talk about how your unique way of funding your
the business
equipment.
With the ventures, like we kind of went into like whereas our investor has a lot of money, and so it was like we're doing all the work and we have the building and the know-how. And they want to see their pickle company grow, and so
but you did a honeycomb credit crowdfunding? Talk about that.
When we first bought the building, we did that, and at the time it was like, could we use some money? Yeah, it'd be cool, like to maybe buy this, that, or anything. But we didn't even know what the hell we wanted to buy. But it was like we looked at our numbers and thought, okay, if we could take a loan out for this much, we can obviously pay it back in this amount of time. And we thought it was more interesting doing it that route than going through a bank because Honeycomb was like advertising for us, and they were getting, the Pittsburgh area investors to know about us and anyone that would be interested in that kind of thing.
Well, explain what crowdfunding is, because I don't think a lot of people know that you can actually get a whole group of people to give you a little bit of money.
Yeah, I mean, so if you needed $20,000, there are people out there who will invest in your company for some sort of return, at the end of the day, and you can get your money quick, and at the same time, they're telling everyone and their mother about it. Whereas going to bank is much more difficult. You have much more hoops to jump through. So it's just it's easier, and we've done it once. And, we kind of just haven't needed that, service since. But, if you're getting started, there's probably not a better route that I can think of, and at the same time, it's something that's cool where everyone's like, oh, that's cool. It's crowdfunded, and it's communal and everyone gets to be a part of it. It doesn't seem, I don't see anything bad in it.
Yeah, people like the story too, because people want to say, I remember when I found out about the crowdfunding, I thought, wow, this is really neat because you wanted a piece of equipment. And the example they gave us at the meeting was you're an ice cream, store and you need a new ice cream machine. So it's a $10,000 machine. You could get 100 people to give you $10 or whatever. You can divide it all up. And these people give 20, 30, 200. Now, when they want to go buy ice cream, where are they going to buy ice cream? They're going to go to the store
right.
that they gave money to, even though they're going to get their money back. That's where they're going to go because they want the store to be in business so that they know they get their money back.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they're going to support. They're going to support the pickle company. Support the pickle company because if you go under, I'm not getting my money back. So I better tell everybody to buy pickles so I get my money back when you're doing well.
Right.
Because when you go to a bank, they just say no because they don't want to give you their money.
No,
or they charge you too much. They really don't.
And that's it in a nutshell. Right.
They don't want to benefit you at all. So talk about the crown cut. I think that's very interesting story, how you got to your special pickle cut.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and I love that. It's something that it's one of those things that if the business ever, disappears or whatever, it's something that we'll be able to hang our hats and say, we did that little thing. And it was just one day, we're staring at the slicer and my brother was like, well, what if we put a flat blade on and then a crinkle cut blade and then a flat blade and another crinkle cut blade? Won't it be like flat and crinkle on one side? It'll look like a little crown. And it was like, yes, genius.
Okay, which brother?
Will.
Ah, yeah. You got to give him credit.
Yes. And it was just like, and then when you think okay, now the pickle is a crown. And it's like, okay, well then now if you put that on your sandwich, well now that's a sandwich built for a king. And so there's just all this little Easter eggs that we find within the business. It's like, how could we, how do you reinvent the wheel? How do you reinvent the pickle? So we cut it differently than anyone has, I guess. And it was like sitting right there in front of everyone. Just flip the blades. That's all you got to do. And so we got that trademarked, and it's it's like a Pittsburgh Pickle crown cut pickle. Like if anyone else does it, they're ripping off of us. So it's just like that's So it's a cool thing to hang your hat on, and just another little thing that where we kind of I always like to think we think outside of the jar, but just constantly trying to how do we keep spinning this pickle wheel? How do we make it better? How that's something else that they taught us in college. Like, how do you make a better mousetrap? Right? So, I mean, so it's just it's a really cool avenue to play in the pickle world. Because the pickle seems like such a friendly thing, where no one is ever offended by the pickle. It's like it's a very just a natural part of humanity, the pickle. And so to be a part of that, for me, it's very rewarding. Every time we get a shipment of cucumbers in, the fresh cucumbers, I look at them like I stare at all of them, and we dump in this giant tank of water to clean them all, and I just stare at them for a while, and I thank them, because I'm like, without them, I don't have this business, I don't have this purpose. And I just very grateful for the opportunity, and it's and being with so close to produce and something that's alive. You get to deal with something that's fresh, and just there's something that feels really good about that. And every time we get them in, I always eat a fresh one, and that always feels good. I don't know. I get the privilege of doing that. I don't know.
So do you get locally grown pickles in the summer and then have to go somewhere else during the winter?
Sadly, Pennsylvania is like the worst place in the world for cucumbers, apparently. It's just we
really,
the way they now we deal with like really big farms and stuff. So we kind of at this time of year they're all coming up from Mexico, and to be honest, it's the greatest cucumbers we see all year is this time of year. They're really hard to get because they're just not in abundance, but they're awesome. As awesome as a cucumber can be, whereas I've seen billions of them. I've touched more cucumbers than anyone I know. So it's very interesting. And as the season goes on, they start coming up from Florida, and then up that Panhandle, and then Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, some of Virginia, but then it kind of shifts over into Indiana, and then up into Michigan and Canada. So there's a weird kind of swooping kind of belt, and back down to Mexico again, and it's just back and forth throughout the season.
Well, what's wrong with the ones in Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania? What's wrong with our pickles?
There's no cucumber farms, like cucumber specific
Really?
farms. Yeah. Where these farms that we're getting from, like that's all they're growing, and they have the machinery and equipment to grade all of them, where we need specific graded cucumbers, to meet our requirements to make, our jar of pickles. And some of our customers' jars of pickles, they require different sizes.
Yeah.
So it's and again, we're not ordering a truckload of cucumbers at a time. We're ordering 4 or 5 pallets. Granted, it's 10,000 pounds of cucumbers that we're getting through in a week. But a truckload's like 20 pallets. If we had the sales to do that, we could probably be running 2 shifts on our building and running 7 days a week. That could be happening out of our space. It's just a matter of lining up all those other stars to demand that volume.
Now you don't make pickle spears anymore, do you?
No,
for
we
retail.
don't. It's a blessing, and one of the scariest things that we had to do as a company, because during COVID, we could barely get cucumbers. It was so dicey, like we're not going to almost have a company here because we couldn't even get our main product. And so the cucumbers we were getting weren't all that great, and we would sit there and have to grade them by hand to find enough straight ones to make spears out of. And then the ones we could make spears out of, they weren't wonderful. And so a lot of, when you get a curved cucumber, you can't really make a spear out of it. And so, for a long time we were slicing with knives, and then we got like hand plunger ones. We're still doing one at a time, but you'd have 4 or 5 people lined up, just boom, boom for like 4 hours to get through 2,000 pounds of cucumbers. And, 9/10 of them weren't straight. And then we have to go pack them all into a jar by hand. Well, packing spears in a jar versus packing chips in a jar is 2 different stories. The chips go real fast. Right. The spears, you're sitting there like a maniac, And so like years of being hunched over, after pounding the spears, and then put them in a jar, and then picking the baskets up. I don't know how we've made it this far, but we had made the executive decision to go, we can't keep doing this. We're killing ourselves, and we don't even have the product to make it. So we, at the time, we were able to buy a chip slicer. It's like the Ferrari of cucumber chip slicing. Okay. And we got a really great price on it, and it is it's the best, because the cucumbers you dump in and they come ripping out, all cut perfectly and look like $1 million. So we were like, look, if we're going to survive, we don't have any option. And so at the time we still didn't have the chip filler, and so we were still packing them, the chips by hand, but it just allowed our business to survive. And so it's a shame, but it's something I can't even they don't make a machine that puts spears on the jar. That's
too bad.
It's crazy. I mean, they do, but it's like one at a time. And the cucumber's got to be perfect. So it's just like we don't got that kind of money to play those kind of games.
Yeah, Vlasic must have this. Vlasic has the secret to it. They have the secret, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's lots of money, I guess.
Yeah. So besides pickles, you make some Bloody Mary mix.
We do, and wildly enough, we make the #1 Bloody Mary mix in the country, and not enough people know that. Twice we won #1 in the country.
Well, who came up with the recipe for this?
Oh, so it's crazy. We have a bar, and so we were always making Bloody Mary mix there, and we had the pickle company, and we saw other pickle companies had their own version of a Bloody Mary mix, and we're like, well, why don't we just use the one from the bar? And my brother Joey, he was kind of in charge of that. And when we started it, I think at the time we were using more citrus in it and stuff, and we were like, well, if we're gonna it be under the Pittsburgh Pickle brand, it should be more pickle oriented. And so he came up with something, based off of our pickle brine recipe. And it really is. It's the best. I don't drink Bloody Marys, and I prefer the mix by itself, without vodka.
I have the jar right here. I haven't opened it yet. Yeah,
I mean, but we use we use horseradish from the same supplier that we get our vinegar from, and it's and they make the best in the world. And we just use really good, nice products, and it's balanced perfectly. You don't have to doctor it all. That's the thing about Bloody Marys. People always are, oh yeah, I like to get it, and then I like to put this, that, and the other thing in it. You don't have to do anything with ours. It really is Perfect.
I will try it later. I didn't have a chance to try it. You know, what really amazes me is on this podcast, I've interviewed a lot of people from the food industry, the scientists. They have PhDs in food science. They have master degrees.
Right.
They have, companies like McDonald's, who doesn't even make food. They have 65 food scientists on staff.
Right.
And, these other companies. And you don't even want to know how many food scientists Heinz has on staff.
I can only imagine.
And it takes them, I don't know, probably 3-4 years to come out with a new product.
Right.
Okay. And you send your brother back to the bar, tell him to make something. He comes up with it. You guys all go, yeah, it tastes good. And you make it. People make it so hard. They make it so difficult.
There's no life in it. This is an art. It's not. They turn into a science. No, it's not. You're not either adding up bits. Stop it. They're looking at the bottom line. Just do it how your mom would have done it or your grandma would have done it. They would have done it the right way. They wouldn't have fooled around. It's I'm in the food industry. It's very wacky. No one's really making any food. It's sad. It's like, and even it's just. I don't get it. I don't understand what all the chemicals are. Why it has to be so weird.
You don't put any chemicals in yours.
No, I don't. Yeah, there's salt. Is salt a chemical? I don't know. No. There's no high fructose corn syrup. We're going to pay more for the sugar, and then I guess you might too at the store. I don't know. It's just don't put the bad stuff in. That's the rule. Okay, go. Just like it was called Pittsburgh style. Okay, it's called Pittsburgh style, and don't put bad stuff in. Go. Whatever that is. That's the answer. It doesn't have to. It's not rocket science. And and places, I don't know. I don't know if they have so much money they got to start a rocket science company to make ketchup.
They do sensory tests, that for months and months on end to see. Yeah,
they're studying people like lab rats. Instead of letting people do their art, do their craft. And that's but that's the thing. We're not a giant corporation. No. And maybe hopefully someday we will. But it will never be weird. It'll never be like this. As long as I own it, it won't be. Just, I don't know, there's standards and just things that, I don't know, that are sensible and just humane. I don't know. Again, not rocket science.
You also sell pickle juice. What better thing to sell? Yeah, what makes your pickle juice different than other people's?
No chemicals. We actually use spices to get all the flavors in it, and it's ours. It's me and my brother's thinking that went into we put our heads down, and that's what you're getting is us.
Yeah. Does it taste like pickle juice? Because I've tasted some that taste just like brine, not pickle juice.
Ours tastes like, it tastes pleasant. It tastes like you have a sip and you go, I'll have another. Yeah, that's fine. That's all you need is a sip. But it's a way to get salts back in you, to replenish your salts. And it's crazy. We sold it as a product to put in our lineup, not as oh my God, we're going to make a mint off of this. And we did it because we saw a lot of other pickle companies bottling their pickle juice. Okay, let's do the same. But we came out with a really cool brand for it and a really cool package and a really great recipe. And when the distributors took it, we thought, okay, it'll probably be in the stores for a year. And now we ship tons of it out. And I think people buy it because they actually use it for leg cramps mainly, I think. A lot of people that are older, they get leg cramps at night before they go to bed. They take a little sip of that before bed and they're good to go. And it's just something that's simple. It's getting salt in your body that tastes good. No one wants to just drink salt water. So here's salt water in the key of pleasant. Yeah,
and you know that salt water or pickle juice is also good for migraines.
Yeah, it's the world of salts, good salts. It's very interesting to me because we've been given table salt and stuff that's really not any good for you. but like Celtic salt and the pink Himalayan sea salt, all that kind of stuff is vital to the body and its operation.
Is that what you use?
No, I mean, we use a Morton's pickling salt, that is straight salt. There's no caking agents in it or anything like that. But it's the right salt you need for pickles on scale.
What is the distribution of your products now? How far have you gotten from Pittsburgh?
I mean, it's weird. It's pretty far. I think that someone sells them in Trinidad. They got down there somehow.
Wow.
And I heard someone had them in Morocco. But it's just like one of those weird, a distributor picks them up and then somehow it gets down there. I don't know. But it's not like it's flying off the shelves down or anything like that.
Right.
But, so we're in UNFI. We're in KHE. We are in distribution with a company called Davidson, McEnany, Cisco, Jordan Banana Company. And then we have a lot of local companies that come and pick up. But it's like, we in a way, we've had to make sure we didn't get too big for our britches. You know what I mean? So we've like pumped the brakes here and there, because we can only make so many damn pickles. And so it's like, we don't want to, we got to keep all of our ducks in a row. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. And so it's just been, a real steady balance of growth and not overwhelming ourselves to the point of destruction.
So the pickles are found in all 50 states, or at least 48?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, we're all along the East Coast, I would say, probably from Maine down to Florida. I know we're out like into Indiana because there's like a market district out there. I know we're out in California. I know a hardware store in Alaska, Oregon, Washington. So yeah, we got into like the Do It Best system. So like all the Do It Best hardware stores in the country, I guess apparently the one pickle they have access to is our pickle.
All right.
So yeah, if you go to your hardware store and it's a Do It Best or one of those places, have them order our pickles.
Now you're only doing retail at the moment. You're not doing any wholesale or anything. You're not we're selling pickles to other food companies.
I mean, no. So yeah, we sell everything to the distributor, and we'll do we do some wholesale for some smaller places, but to be honest, we're so tied up with production, like to deal with that part of I guess to deal with smaller accounts on a daily basis gets almost like I don't want to say it's not worth it, but like we just don't have the manpower to facilitate all of it. So it's like it's easier to go through distribution for us at this stage.
Now I know that you had for a short time some peck.
The
pecks
hot sauces, and they're really good.
The hot sauces.
They're really good.
What happened?
And so as we had to scale the production up to the machinery we needed to do that, we didn't have, and then the new system that we put in to make pickles, the bottling didn't fit into the system. So it's like, we have, our production area is taken up with all this pickle equipment now, and there's really not the space to do the sauces, in these smaller little bottles. And then, so we are in the process of trying to bring that back. So I'm dealing with a company called Louisiana Pepper Exchange, and they make pepper mashes that, we weren't able to buy the fresh pepper and mash it on scale. And so they can do that for us. And now we just have to find the time to take their product and see if it'll pump through our system. Because it just turns into like all these different things, like, different viscosities won't pump through this certain kind of pump and these different.
Right.
And again, we come from the world of not this world. So, it's learning every day and trying to figure out what can we do with what we got and what can we add with certain piece of equipment. And, just trying to, take out as many birds with one stone kind of deal.
Have you ever had to hire a consultant to help you yet with any of these major problems?
We're working with a consultant now as far as distribution and getting outside of this market more, and it's beginning to help. And that's been like almost like a year process, and it takes a while. And we've done some food shows and things like that. But again, like we've just been so tied up with production, and we're also tied up with our restaurants, and we also have families and children, and and not much of a life, to be honest. Today was a very
maybe you need some consultants.
Well, yeah,
it's a burden off you.
But it's a very, we come from a very unique position. Like we don't come from a rich background. My brothers and I grew up not with much, and but very sturdy family. And so for us, this is like we stick to ourselves. We almost don't want a lot of outside help, kind of. And it's we do it the way we do it. And yeah, maybe we could use consultants and all that kind of stuff, but it's one of those things when you start getting too many spoons in the pot. I don't know.
Yeah.
You just start losing the reason why you started in the first place, and just like it just gets messy, and it just turns into numbers and not much fun.
Pittsburgh is full of food industry people, so if you needed consultants, you'll find them because they're here. They got left behind by Heinz and other food companies.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they're here.
I need a warehouse. You know anyone has a warehouse? I need a warehouse.
Oh, okay.
It's somewhere that I don't know that is that we can just keep making product and sending it to sit for distribution to pick up. Yeah, we don't have that kind of space. Our building is perfect for production and getting it the hell back out the door so we can bring in more supplies that make more product. So that's a big logistic thing for us at the moment. But we in this year we've picked up 2 new co-packing clients that should really like help allow us to bring on new employees and hopefully get us off the floor so we can work on the business and not in the business.
How many employees do you have now?
It's me, my 2 brothers. We got 2 other guys and a gal that works in the office.
Wow.
And that's it. And
you guys are making it work.
yeah, we are. It's crazy. But that's kind of how we are. Like we like it to be slim pickings, and we can't have all this hubbub and people running around everywhere. It's like we've got to be focused, and I don't know. It's we probably could use a consultant. Huh?
Yeah. All right, let's do a little plug for some of the products. So the Pittsburgh style you told us about, the original dill.
That is the most normal pickle you could eat, garlic and dill.
Okay.
It's for the people that just want a pickle.
Okay, and then we have brimstone.
Yeah, brimstone is our spicy pickle. Everyone had just a spicy garlic dill. We thought, I don't know, it's got to be somewhat different, so we made it spicy and smoky. So we used chipotle pepper in it, and red pepper and black pepper. So it's like fire, ash, and smoke. The idea behind that.
Yeah. Does it sell well?
Very well. That's my favorite pickle. It's such a unique pickle. It's you put that on anything and it stands out like $1,000,000. And it makes anything, if you like smoked meat or smoked cheese or anything like that. I'm a vegetarian, so adding that to me gives like a meat element for me, which so I really enjoy that.
All right, then we have Dagwood.
The Dagwood is our bread and butter. We use apple cider vinegar as like the main sweetener of it. We also use sugar in that pickle. But whereas a lot of other companies will use white vinegar, but to mask that, you got to use a ton of sugar. So our Dagwood pickle, it's a sweet pickle that that doesn't have a ton of sugar in it. So it's like not poisonous.
Do you know why they call them bread and butter pickles?
I've heard a million different stories.
I don't know why.
Yeah, there's if you Google it, you get a bunch of different reasons, and I've read them all, and I kind of forget. And it's like, but it sounds really good. But a lot of it was, I think, too, during during the 20s, when the Depression era, I should say, any Depression era, people were eating white bread with butter and just throwing pickles on it to you get something in their gut.
That doesn't even sound good. Doesn't even sound good. I just remember, when I moved away from Pittsburgh for a while and I was in Chicago and I said something about bread and butter pickles, they'd never even heard of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I thought that was weird. And then We the Pickle. What is a We the Pickle?
It was like we were looking at a bunch of different recipes, and we kind of wanted like a classic American deli style recipe, where it was just like just kind of some different spices that were different from the Pittsburgh style. There's no sugar in that one, and we used caraway in it, and we weren't using caraway in our other recipes. and caraway is just such a awesome spice in a pickle, and it just made it like a much more, I don't know, like a real robust sandwich pickle. If you want to put a pickle on a sandwich, that's a really nice one.
Okay, I have to look into that. So
and it was a play on we the people, and
I know.
And we see so many cucumbers that might as well be people. There's so many damn many of them.
You're almost friends with these guys.
Yeah, kind of.
So what's our short-term plan, our 1-year plan for the Pittsburgh Pickle Company?
So this year is our 10th year, which is insane. You know, when you start off, people are, you wonder where you'll be in 10 years, and you can never picture what the hell it'll look like. I mean, things change daily, but I'm very grateful for where we are at after 10 years. It is, I guess it is impressive. Like, we don't get, hung up on it, but it's like no one else, still after a decade, no one else is doing it. And my brother says it all the time. No one else is coming. No one in their right mind would start a pickle company in this day and age.
Oh, no.
So we feel like we're carrying a torch, like from a past people on into the next generation, and like bringing old world kind of thing into the future, and want it to stay. Like, I think about Guinness and how long it's been around. Like, that's what I want. Mm-hmm. I don't care about the money. I want to be able to put a big stamp in the world somewhere, and I did that, and that's all. So if I can do that, that's great. But this year, the short term,
this year,
we thought 10 years. Like, what could we possibly introduce as a new product? And it sounds crazy, but I keep saying ketchup. I want to make ketchup. And it's just one of those things that. Yeah, and it's like we're already making Bloody Mary mix. We're already making pickles. We have every ingredient in house already to make it, And so it's like, let's make some ketchup that isn't toxic. And so we're gonna probably do ketchup and mustard.
But that's really tough because Pittsburgh is so devoted to Heinz, even though 90% of them don't know that Heinz isn't even here anymore. Sure. They still think they're here.
I don't care.
And they're so devoted. You don't care?
No, I don't care one bit.
What are you going to call it?
I don't know yet. That's something we're talking about.
You call it Pittsburgh Pickle.
No, we can't. But we'll
Pittsburgh Ketchup.
We'll come up with something. We'll come up with something cute.
Yeah, you have to. And then you said mustard.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are all ingredients that are, they're all pickle ingredients in the first place. They all go hand in hand, and it fits into our lineup of stuff, and it's like. We see like how we can in the future kind of be like a condiment provider. Mm-hmm. And I'm someone who I'm a condiment freak. My fridge is full of tons of tiny little jars and bottles of sauces and all sorts of little things. And so people. Love
my children accuse me of that all the time. They say, we open your refrigerator and all we see are condiments. You have nothing else. If you took all the condiments out, you would have maybe milk and eggs, and that would be it.
Right.
I'm terrible. You take me to one of those, those craft shows or whatever, and they sell all the dip mixes, and the salad dressing mixes, and all those little envelopes, and you can buy 6 for $10 and stuff. I buy them all up, and I bring them home, and they sit. I have a whole drawer of them. And one day, I got really tired of having all these old ones around. I just I looked at like 4 dip ones, couple cheesecake ones. I forget what they all were. And I made them all. And my kids came over and I had chips and all this stuff, and they loved them. And they said, "Oh, you got to make this again." I said, "I can't make it again. That craft show was 10 years ago. This mix is from 10 years ago. You'll never see this again."
Yeah, right. But that's the thing. Variety is the spice of life, right? I mean, so it's like, it makes it fun.
I need to use them more. I seem to save them rather than using them. That's what I need to do.
You get a couple pickles at the end of the jar. You're like, well, I'll just save them for a treat for next time. And then you open the fridge for next time. And then they end up sitting there. But you just got to mow through them and buy another jar real quick, right?
Yeah, I need to use those things, and I've been trying to do a better job of just mixing it up. I did the other day. I made a dip mix.
Yeah.
I pulled one blindly out of the drawer and made it. And I thought it was going to be terrible because it was so old,
Right.
and it was. Everybody loved
Totally
it.
fine.
Everybody
See
said this was great. So I'll use the other one another day. But I really do have to do this.
That's fine.
So if we're going to bring back the hot sauces and now make some other things, what's the 5-year plan? What's for year 15 you're hoping to have accomplished?
Well, I'll be honest. Like I want to get off that production floor, like I said, like just so I can stand back and look at everything and like assess, and then and kind of try to make a plan from there. One of my plans I would love the next year, probably more like a 2-year plan, hopefully. But I have a couple old cars, and I want to turn them into promotional vehicles for the companies. You know, we own 2 restaurants in the pickle company. If you're familiar with Turner's Tea, I'm sure you are. They have the Turner's T-Bird, and they have, that guy. They've driven that car all around the city for years. Just showing up to places and handing out little cartons of iced tea to people. The trunk is a giant iced tea cooler. And I want to do the same thing with my cars, where I just show up to places, I open up the trunk, and it's filled with pickles. And I just want to hand out pickles and go, here. And that's it. I don't, just give pickles away. That's all I want to do.
And what kind of cars are they?
So I have 2, an 86 and an 87 Jaguar XJS, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with those cars. They were like a mile long. They were the ones that had the V12s in them. A giant waste of space, but beautiful. They have enormous trunks. So they're perfect to fill with pickles. And then I also have a 1978 Mustang that my father left to me a long time ago. Much smaller car, but very cool car, V8, very fast little car. But I want to get them, all wrapped and all the graphics and just show up to places and promote the companies. I'm sick of working. I'll be honest. I mean, I still, I keep myself in great shape because I got to show up and do that job. But I'm pushing 45, and it's just wearing me out a little bit. And I'd like to kind of like enjoy my business a little more. It'd be nice to do that. But whatever, when God says it's time, that'll be the time.
Yeah. So between the 3 brothers, how many children do you guys have?
I have 3 daughters.
You have 3 daughters.
3 daughters, and my brother Will has 2 kids, and my brother Joe still no kids yet, and but they'll be getting there soon, I'm sure.
So you're going to have to teach them all the trade of making pickles.
I mean, 100%. Like we talk about this all the time. Like this day and age, like do you push them towards college anymore? We have this company, and it is kind of what I set out to do, was to have this family business that all of our family members could take part of and take advantage of, and have a place to go and keep some ball that we started rolling, keep it rolling. My daughters, my wife homeschools our kids. Good chance. I mean, I want to get the oldest one graduated before she's 16 and get her to work. And she's a go-getter. She would love to do it tomorrow if legally she could.
We won't tell anyone.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it's I don't know. Like it's we'll see where the day takes us. But it's we blew a nice big bubble. For a lot of people to partake in, a lot of people to take advantage of, and to get good products out of, and just, I don't know, have something humble this day and age, and something, I don't know, that seems somewhat normal. Like the town has a pickle company. That seems normal. I like just anything to keep things. I don't want to say not moving into the future, but just some remains of the old world. And to be a part of that, to me, is very important.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a scheme or anything weird.
That's what I love about it. It's just great. That's.
So what would you tell somebody who says they'd like to start their own little, and let's go with food. They want to start their own food company. What would you tell them? You've been through all this.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be hyper creative. Like where I say this all the time, there's nothing new under the sun. So you have to rebrand everything. I mean, there's been a billion different pickles made before we made ours. And as that jar comes down the line before the label gets put on it, it just looks like a jar of pickles. But once you slap that brand on it, it's a jar of Pittsburgh pickles, and it takes on a whole new vibe, you know. So if you're going to put something out there, it's got to be better than the rest, and it's got to be cool, and it's got to have a message, it's got to have a theme, it's got to have a personality, it has to have a life to it, it has to have a story behind it. Like, there's just so much stuff out there that is just, I don't even know what it is. It's just it's there to be there, you know. But I think why our company has survived is because there was it wasn't to make a buck. It wasn't even to. It was just there was something that needed to be done, and we picked up the shovels.
Yeah.
So I mean, but to tell someone, what they should do, you got to show up every day, and you have to not believe in your product, know your product, know that it is the best, and know that, you know, I say it all the time, like, either buy our pickles or don't. Like, I don't care if you don't, you know, but if you're going to buy them, you'll enjoy them, I'm sure. And if you don't, that's no hard feelings, whatever. Like, this isn't, again, like, I'm not a businessman. You know? I know that if you make something good and make it look like $1 million and it tastes like $1 million, you should make a buck. That's all.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the math I know. You know, I mean, that's the only math I can do. My brothers do all the accounting. So.
You know, they always say it takes a village to raise a child. So to make a company, I mean, I'm sure it takes the whole community. Talk a little bit about the food and beverage network in Pittsburgh and some of the other Pittsburgh companies that may have been of a help or something to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's constantly inspiring. Like, we look at each other and go, okay, we're still doing this. Like, we were surviving this mayhem that is, like, what the economy is, like, where it's so hard to, like, measure, you know, business at this stage, you know. So it's kind of like putting the blinders on and just act like as if nothing's going on and just keep going as according to plan. But locally, like, just, you know, this is a great place to start a local company, where there's not too many places in this country that support local like Pittsburgh does. You know, it is a really weird, like, big, small city. Everyone in this town knows each other. It's so weird. And people don't leave, and people do leave and they all come back, you know, and
yes, it's,
you know, so opening a food company here is very special because the people are very, they respond to it. And you get tons of support. And we do still have enough of an old world mentality to be accepting to someone trying something, you know, like, where a lot of people get, you know, poo if you try to do something in life, you know, but where people are like, oh, good. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, cool. You know, and that's all you really need. Yeah.
We did a podcast last week, and it actually came out today with Scott Baker from 5th Generation Bakers and from Jenny Lee Swirl Bread.
Yeah.
So we did that with him. And I know that you know him through Fab.
Yeah, right.
And but I read somewhere that you guys were thinking about doing a cinnamon pickle.
We did at one point in time. Like, it was,
that's strange.
And the pickle was delicious. It is. It's still one of my favorite pickles. Yeah, it's
really?
And we did it at Picklesburg as well. It's just one of those things, like, you can't make too many of them, because, like, your reaction, like, that doesn't sound good, but they're actually really good. But all we did is we took our Dagwood recipe and took all those spices out and just added cinnamon. You know, so it was like a sweet pickle with not a ton of sugar in it, and it just tasted like cinnamon and sugar. It just tastes like cinnamon and sugar. You know, you don't really taste the cucumber at the end of the day. And
that's interesting.
For Picklesburg one year, we did a dessert as the thing that we were selling, a pickle dessert, and it was vanilla breadcrumbs, or not breadcrumbs, graham cracker crumbs, pudding, and the Cinepickle. Yeah, we called it Cinepickle, the cinnamon pickles, and whipped cream. And it was like one of the most delicious things you'd eat, you know, in your life.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Have you ever gone to the Pittsburgh Home Show?
I've been to it. We haven't done our pickles there. Do you think that'd be a good place to do them?
Well, there's a pickle company. I don't think they're a pickle company. I don't know if they make pickles. I don't know what they do, but they have like 20 varieties of pickles just in buckets. And you can buy the pickles, and they'll put them in the plastic container. But they make horseradish pickles and mustard pickles, and they make everything. But the big thing about it is, I don't know why they call it the home show. They should sometimes call it the food show, because you go in and you can buy windows and gutters and siding, but on the other end, it's all this food. It's the Pampered Chefs. It's the Cutco. It's,
that brings me back to what you're saying earlier about the fermented stuff. Like so that company right there, they're kind of doing what we would like to do in another venue, which would be to make tons of different varieties of pickles like that in 5-gallon buckets, where it's a fresh packed pickle, where it's almost like a pickle deli.
Yes, that's what they do. But the best part about it is that you get to taste all of them before you buy them.
Yeah, right.
No, all the stuff, no matter whether people selling fudge, or they're selling moonshine, or they're selling, anything, you get to try it. So, like, my reaction to the cinnamon pickle was, but if I was standing there and you said, taste the cinnamon pickle, I would probably go, oh, that's delicious, and bought some.
When we're at Picklesburg, we have samples out. Anyone that tries it, if you try them, you buy them. Like no one leaves that line without buying the pickles.
Yeah, talk about Picklesburg. Talk about where it is, when it is, where it is, how it came to be. I don't know anything about it. Never even heard of it till today.
It started. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you never heard of it?
No, not till today.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it started the same year we opened our company in 2014, but they do it downtown Pittsburgh every year. They shut down one of the bridges. They've done that in the past. Last year was the first year they decided not to do that. But they would shut down one of the bridges, and it would just be the bridge would be lined with pickle vendors. People would just come and buy pickles, and it was a big pickle event. And they've been doing that every year since 2014. They didn't do it in 2020. But now they moved it to a street location that it made it a lot safer. Being on the bridge was a little tough, being crammed in there, trying to sell pickles. But it's the largest food event in the country now. Picklesburg is. Really? So the amount of visitors that show up for it from all around the country just for pickles is kind of crazy. And what's nice, a lot of people think it's our event, Pittsburgh Pickle, Picklesburg. It's not.
You're getting credit.
Yeah, sure. But we at this stage now, we work really closely with the people that run Picklesburg, because when they started it and we started our company, like it was just kind of like scratching each other's backs to make sure it was like a cool event and make sure people came. And so now we host the pickle juice drinking contest at Picklesburg every year, which has turned into like a big time event where they're starting to get people that are these like food challenge people showing up for it and stuff from around the world and the country. So yeah, it's great publicity, and whoever would have thought by just making a couple pickles in your bar, it would.
When's the next Picklesburg?
It's every summer. It's always like the second to last or the last week of July.
Okay.
Downtown Pittsburgh.
Oh, I'm going to have to go this year. Yeah, I'd never even heard of it.
It's fun. It's like 3 days long. We're standing there just selling pickles for 3 days and just saying the same thing over 8,000 times. But yeah, it's such a great opportunity to get the public in front of our brand and to try our pickles. And it's again, it was like perfect timing. There's a giant pickle event in the town you started a pickle company in, and we're the place where pickles kind of started in this country. So people hesitate on buying things if they haven't tasted them. I mean, that's why Sam's Club does it. Costco does it. They sample stuff all day long, just so people, and my husband's always coming home with stuff he sampled somewhere. I stopped at the auto show downtown today. You can get in the cars and try them out. You can get in and see what they're like. It's like, yeah, you get to try them before you buy them. But it goes a long way. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. So I mean, we used to try to do so many sampling events around town. But then when COVID happened, that got like too weird, and it's like that's again like a whole nother operation, an employee to keep track of, to do all these things. And yeah, it's a lot of moving parts, especially when you're still in like the grinder parts of the business, So, but we're getting there, and we'll eventually get there. And being in the Strip with our one restaurant, I've always wanted to open up a Pittsburgh Pickle Company deli in the Strip, where we would have all of our pickled items, and you get a deli sandwich, but it'd be all in our brand.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we've done with that restaurant. We opened up a restaurant in August out in Monroeville called the Coxcomb, and that is we say it's a chicken joint with a pickle problem. So it's a lot of pickles and fried chicken.
Wow.
And so that wasn't part of the plan to open up another restaurant, but we came across a place and the deal seemed really good, and we opened that in August, and it's been great since. And just another outlet to get the pickle brand out there, and to just implement what we've kind of learned over the years. And we have 3 families. We kind of need 3 businesses.
You need 3 incomes. So how do you divide the work between you and Will and Joe? I
mean, it's nutty. I mean, I live minutes from the pickle building, so I'm kind of tied to the pickle building. Excuse me. Both of my brothers, their wives are involved with the restaurants. So they have the one has oversight of the BeerHive, the other one has oversight of the Coxcomb, and my brother's doing all the accounting, and Joe's managing a lot of the people out there, and I'm running stuff at the pickle building, and it's a lot because then they come back down to make pickles, and so they're in and out, and communication is tough. But we're constantly texting each other all day, and it's like we kind of work all day. We never really leave the businesses. We're always communicating about something, and something needs done, or there's a fire needs put out somewhere.
Is it still fun to work with your brothers?
I mean, yeah, like that part, yes. Like, I mean, whereas like, thank God, like we have each other. Like, I don't know, like none of us would have done it without each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, we would have opened a bar by ourselves. So it's like, we don't have a lot of time to have fun. Mm-hmm. We don't get to hang out. My brother, we did have a surprise birthday party for Joey on Sunday, and that was awesome. And and we got to do it at Iron City Brewery. For over the years of the connections we've made with them and the relationships, through our bar and restaurants, and so it's like it is nice that we have some perks here and there, to do little things, and that's really rewarding. Like growing up the way we did, like when you get to go do a lot of crazy things that other people got to do. So it's nice to be able to have that experience, and to give it to our children as well. It's I don't know, we're getting off a tangent. I remember what the question.
No, I asked you if
how we divide the work up.
Then I asked you how you're doing with your brothers, how you get to still hang out with them, and it's still a good time.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things, like we almost, like when we see each other, we almost like don't make eye contact. Not because we don't want to look at each other, but it's like because we're all on the same page. We're all thinking the same things, and we used to, before we opened the businesses, we used to play flag football together. And looking back, that was some of the greatest times we've ever had together. And we always were on the same team. And I always played quarterback, and I'd have those 2 as receivers. And we didn't even have to talk. Mm-hmm. And I always knew exactly where they would be, and they knew exactly what I was thinking. And we beat people that were way more athletic than us, but collectively we were able to outthink and outsmart. And there was and I always look back at that and I go, like, that gave me the confidence to definitely get into business with my brothers. Like, we are a 3-headed monster in a weird kind of way. And but we get stuff done. We do. And I've adapted the phrase of saying to my children, I always say TCB, and that means take care of business.
Yeah.
That was Elvis's thing, but I've fallen in love with with that mentality, and as their homeschool, it's we say it's a TCB mentality for homeschool. So it's like they get to work and they get their stuff done, and then they have lots of time for fun and learning about family businesses and getting this ship down the road.
Well, I have to laugh because I have 2 boys. You met my one son, Jamie, when he used to work for us. He doesn't work for us anymore. Got smart and went and did something else. And then my younger son never was in our business. But when my son Jamie and his friends would get together, my husband always said, 1 boy, 1 brain, 2 boys, half a brain, 3 boys, no brains.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's interesting because I think we're the exact opposite. Yeah, we get in trouble by ourselves. More trouble when it's just 2 of us, and when it's 3 of us, it's a nice system of checks and balances.
Yeah, good. But it's nice that you do it with family and you do it with your brothers, and you're still getting along and everything. So
yeah,
so one last question: if you look back, would you do it all over again, knowing what you know now?
Yeah. I mean, in a weird way, I think it kind of saved my life a little bit. Not that I had going down a bad path or anything like that, but like, I just didn't understand. Didn't have purpose. And I've always dreamt big. And like probably too big for a lot of people. I don't see why things can't happen. I don't know. It doesn't, you can, I've had a bunch of zany ideas, and I still think they could happen if I had the time and money and resources. But I would 100% do it all again, knowing what I know. I mean, I got a bunch of pickles to make this week, and it's gonna be a bear. But I know I'm doing something that not too many people in the world are even doing, making pickles. Even in this country, I go to the store and I always look at what pickles are in the store, and a lot of them say India, a lot of them say Germany. And so that I go, oh, well, hey, I'm one of the guys that are making them here. And I didn't come from a family of pickle makers or any of that kind of stuff. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to like blow a bubble for myself and create a spot in this world where, I don't know, other people might not think anything of it, but for me, I go, I know I gave it my all, and it happened. Like I remember growing up saying, like, if you put your mind to it, it'll happen. And I went, oh, okay, I guess, but well, let's see if that actually is true. And it is. It is true. Like if you put your mind to something, it will happen. And being, especially in this business, being in the pickle industry has taught me so much about just life in general and how life functions on a very natural basis, how this universe works. I mean, it might sound crazy that you could get that out of staring at cucumbers all day, but when you got your head down working all day, you got lots of time to think, and lots of time to ingest lots of podcasts and information that open your mind to this world, and it just gave me to be like I said, I'm 45 and I'm still physically working hard every day. As much as it hurts sometimes, like I'm keeping my body going, and I look at that and I say to myself, oh, I want to get off that floor, but then I go, I'm going to get off that floor, and I'll probably turn to rubbish.
Yeah.
So I get scared about that, and but in this process of, at one point in time, I was getting out of shape. You own a bar and restaurant, you eat the worst food, and you're surrounded by beer. So I got to a point where I was like, I'm not going to be able to physically keep doing my job. And so I was forced into, just changing everything. And I changed everything about myself, not everything, but, things that made myself physically and mentally, healthier.
Right.
And it was because of this business.
Yeah.
And so in a roundabout way, I found it and it found me.
Yeah. Think about all these people that do jobs every day they hate. And they do it just for the paycheck.
Right.
And they sit behind a desk and don't get any exercise.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. We weren't made to live this way. And I say all the time, like, oh, everyone should probably be making their own pickles. Like I probably shouldn't even be making them. But we should all be at the end of the day, if we all just sat around and farmed, there ain't nothing else to do. We don't need to do anything else, really. We'd probably all be fine and dandy and, how are you? What do you need? A tomato, here you go. Like it's probably, this is much more intense than we need as people in humanity.
Yeah.
But here we are, and we're making the best out of it.
Yep.
And utilizing this technology for good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I grew up in a family where we made our own pickles. We made our own jam, jelly, canned our own tomatoes, tomato sauce. Everything that came out of the garden was preserved for the winter. and made our own horseradish, made our own sauerkraut. That's what you should. That's what you should make next. Sauerkraut.
So there's a company that I found recently in the past year or so that they bought up like every sauerkraut company in the country, and they make it all essentially. But what I have learned is that Western Pennsylvania gets more sauerkraut shipped to it than any other region in the country. It's just super interesting that we are still eating more sauerkraut than anybody. And I would love to make sauerkraut, but again, it's another building and another production line and another couple mil.
There is a family here in my town, and I don't know much about them, but they make sauerkraut like you've been making your pickles in the church. And they make a spicy sauerkraut, and they make a regular sauerkraut, and it is insanely good.
Lights out, yeah.
It is insanely good. So you go buy them out.
I think about it. I mean, I think about this often, and I don't know if I'm out of my mind or not, but like we live very close to the Amish community, and that is a very large labor force that what I'm doing with is synonymous with everything that they're familiar with. And nothing would bring me greater joy than trying to, combine those two worlds and to get that naturally fermented pickle out there and to get all the naturally fermented things out there. But to do that, you need a labor force.
Yeah.
And that's the only one in this area that I could ever imagine, being available to do what needs done.
Yeah.
And I think, how we started our company and our roots. And I know I come from distantly a long line of Mennonites, and I said there's some kind of combination there. But I go there's something there, and to really staple this region down again as being the place where pickles come from. Like I want Pittsburgh to be known as the pickle capital of the world.
Yeah, well, you're doing
I say it all the time. There's no more perfect place on the planet than Pittsburgh to start a pickle company.
There you go. Perfect. I can't imagine a better way to end this podcast either. That is perfect. I understand. I wish you the best of luck. Keep making the pickles because we enjoy them. And thank you for taking the time to talk to us about your journey.
Certainly. My pleasure.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.